Okay, why don't we get started? Good afternoon, everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Oh gosh. So my name is Crystal Rogers. I am the Associate Dean for Academic Programs here at the School of Social Welfare. I am really excited to be here this late afternoon, early evening, because I get to talk to a group of people about something that I truly love. And that is social work education and the profession of social work and the School of Social Work here at UAlbany. I am a three-time alum of UAlbany. Got my bachelor's, my MSW, and my PhD from here. I teach here, and I've been the associate dean for several years now. I've been a full-time student, a part-time student, and a joint degree student here at the School of Social Welfare. So, and as we continue on this evening, we'll talk more about what all of those things mean. I am also joined by amazing, truly amazing colleagues. And I thought it'd be wonderful if we just start with introducing everyone. I'm going to ask for faculty staff to go, and then we'll have the dean introduce herself and give us a few words, and then we'll launch into our presentation. So I'm going to tag let's see, Catherine Lawrence next.
I'm tagged. I'm it. I am it. And very glad to be here. I am on our faculty. I'm an associate professor, and I'm currently the chair of our MSW program. One of my passions is teaching policy analysis. I'm a politics gossip junkie, but also really think about large systems and how they impact families, communities, and people we care about. And shall I pass it to Geraldine?
By all means.
Tag Geraldine, you're it.
Good afternoon, good evening, almost evening, everyone. My name is Geraldine Gutierrez. I'm the Student Services and Retention Coordinator here at the School of Social Welfare. Also a graduate from the University at Albany for both bachelor's and master's. I serve as a connection between the students, making sure they meet their academic requirements and understand how to navigate the social work program educationally. And work with the academic team and the faculty and staff in all needs student centered. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Okay. And who would you like to tag, Geraldine?
And we're doing faculty staff. I would like to tag Lisa Delamater.
How did I know you were going to do that?
You said you didn't know or you did?
But how did I know you were going to do that?
You were next up on my screen of boxes. Yeah, my screen of boxes.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry. I'm sitting in a weird lighting scenario and it's just looking horrific. So apologies. But anyway, hi, I'm Lisa Delamater. I am the Assistant Dean and Director of Field Education for our BSW and our MSW programs. And it's wonderful to see you this evening. I'm just realizing I know what the game is. I gotta find someone. Oh, who else is here?
I think Alice.
Alice, you're it.
My turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Osterhout. I am an MSW graduate of the program in 2021, so relatively recent. I'm a current PhD student in the program as well, and I help out with admissions. So I think that's it, and we'll pass it over to Dr. Rizzo.
Hi, welcome everyone. So I'm really delighted to see all of you today and that you're interested in the profession of social work and also interested in our school in particular. So I am a two-time alum of the School of Social Welfare. I earned my MSW in 1990. Whoa. And my PhD in 2002. My work has always focused in the healthcare arena. I was a healthcare social worker before I went into the academy. And I also am a gerontologist. I love old people. And so it's an exciting time to go into the field of social work. Social workers are needed more than ever. We have a mental health crisis. We have a child welfare crisis. We have older adults who need case management, care coordination, hand-holding. But we also need, Kate said that she is very impassioned with policy. We also need many policy changes to go along with serving the communities that we represent and want to empower them to advocate for themselves. So I'm delighted that you're here. I can tell you that I have been a faculty member at 2 other universities, as well as here, and that I can assure you, you will get a wonderful educational experience at the University at Albany. I'm also, as well as serving as the interim dean, I'm also the president of the National Association of Social Workers New York State chapter. And together with Crystal and faculty and deans across the state, we're really looking at the issue of licensing. So it's also a great time to be advocating for our profession. Near and dear to my heart is the development of a strong workforce and salaries to go along with that. So I welcome you all here today. You are in very competent hands. These folks know the program very well and will be able to answer all of your questions. And I hope that you will apply to our program and join us in the fall.
Great. Thank you so much, Vicki. Really appreciate that you took the time to join us today. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. And one thing before we begin, I just want to say, I hope everyone, you may have picked up on the fact that we work together as a team. And that's not just on Zoom calls and webinars. We really do have a team approach here at the school. I like to think of us as a family. And so that when if you apply and are accepted into the School of Social Welfare, you become a member of our community, a member of our family as well. So hopefully, again, you will see that as we go forward today with the webinar, it's kind of informal. Several of us may talk to you about, similar slides. And also, what's most important to me is that this is a time for you to get your questions answered, right? This time is about you and your needs. So if we are going too fast, feel free to say, hey, slow down. You can put questions in the chat. Alice is going to be monitoring the chat as well. But just, again, make sure that we're addressing what you came here to find out, that we are responding to your needs. And with that said, I'm going to get started. Also, I will warn you, because I'm sharing my screen, I can only see a few people. All right, I can't see everyone. So if you do have your hand raised or you have something to say and I'm not responding to you, please just, feel free and shout it out. Also, if you have your camera off and you at any point want to show us your beautiful faces and your amazing smiles, we would love to see them. It's a wonderful time for us to start to match names with faces. So we're not scary folks. And yeah, just feel free to turn your cameras on if you are so inclined. So with that, I'm gonna get started. All right, so today we're going to talk about, give you really an overview of the school, the curriculum, the field education, which is a major, major facet of social work education. We're going to get more into the weeds and talk about tuition, scholarships, and housing information as well. Going to take a much deeper dive into the application process, and going to have some questions for students and hopefully time for some questions and answers. Actually, the questions for students are if you have questions of students who are on the call. All right. All right. Thumbs up. Looks like a good agenda. Okay, there we go. All right. So the mission. We are, again, situated in a public university. We have a bachelor's, bachelor's, and a doctoral program, and we also do postgraduate education. And the school is really about educating to create social work leaders, about generating knowledge and research, which really furthers social work. And it's also about promoting social, economic, and environmental justice. That is really, really key for our school, is looking at inequities, focusing on populations who may be identified as marginalized, right? And hoping to assist those communities in really finding their power, right? And to achieve equity. Okay. And also not just locally, but also nationally and globally. So we're all about human well-being. All right. Our faculty and staff, the wonderful colleagues that we work with, we are among the top 5% in the nation for the research for their faculty. Faculty's job is, in addition to research, also to publish, so to produce scholarship and to teach, all right, and service as well. So our faculty are also very involved in the community. Many of them sit on boards of organizations and are very active in the community, as well as research and teaching. We have a diverse faculty and staff. That's one of the things I think I'm so proud of. Is we have faculty representing all races, nationalities, ethnicities, gender identities. It's a varied kind of school that we have here. And again, we're so committed to increasing the diversity that's represented as well. And our faculty are engaged in multiple areas of research. Let's see, we're really known for our research in aging, as Vicki mentioned, in kind of health, in child welfare as well. We're part of the NICWE grant. Kate, would you tell us a little bit about the NICWE grant, just what that's about?
Sure. NICWE stands for the National Child Welfare Workforce Institute. It's very similar to NICWA, which is the National Indian Child Welfare Association, which we also partner with. But the Workforce Institute is a federally funded grant. We work directly with states, counties, and tribes to look at their workforce and what a healthy workplace environment looks like. We've been working specifically on shifting practice in a way that centers racial justice and tribal sovereignty. And it's been an honor to be a part of that research team. And they have an amazing website with webinars and infographics, and just if you have any connection to child welfare, I think you might want to in the future, they're an amazing resource.
Great, thank
Crystal.
you. Thank you. Mental health is also another one of the very strong areas of research here at the school amongst our faculty. We also have structures for support of our student body. Geraldine, would you like to say a few words?
So if you've already noticed, we have folks from assisting students academically. We have Lisa, which is part of the field team. So this program is unique in the way that the learning is both academic and experiential and practicum based. So that's a unique part and also challenging part of the social work education and the master's in social work program. There's faculty members or staff members that will serve as your advisors. So just making sure that you're following the very lockstep structure of the social work program. So those are the people that are going to be giving you your AVNs and making sure that you complete your advising worksheets, something that we actually have been working to make more student friendly, student centered, have recently gotten some feedback from students about the advising that goes on within our offices, and their student groups as well. So some of the student groups that are on campus, the pandemic affected how much students were engaged on campus, obviously, when we were mostly remote, but we're really trying to increase the engagement of students within student groups like the Association of Black Social Workers, the social work graduate GSO, I think it's called Graduate Student Organization for Social Work. So there's different ways to get involved at the program.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. And there's also space for students to create their own groups if that's something you would be interested in doing as well.
Yep, Alice, you want to say a few words about that? I see
Some
you.
trailblazers are amongst us.
There are it's a really great opportunity to organize and put what you're learning into practice by making student groups and student advocacy groups. One that I've been involved in is called SWEAR, and it's social workers advocating for rights and equality of LGBTQ plus folks. But there are a plethora of student groups, and we're always happy to have more, and you will have faculty and staff support if you do choose to do that. It's really unique.
Thank you, Alice.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. All right, so if you are not already aware, the School of Social Welfare, we are a part of the University at Albany. We are a freestanding school, but we are actually located on the downtown campus. So we're very close to the New York State Capitol and the government offices. So again, it's interesting that we're part of, UAlbany in the sense that we have the advantages of being associated with a larger university and some of those wonderful opportunities that come with being a part of a larger university, world-class speakers, like entertainment events, football games, even, if you will, that are associated with a larger university. But at the same time, being on the downtown campus, you really do have that small school feel. I think that's really very valuable. I know as associate dean, I enjoy getting to know our students. I like to be able to walk down the hall and, say, hey, Alice, how are you doing? Or, okay, Alexis, how are things going? Or, talk to me, you were having a little bit of trouble managing field and working, and full-time. How's it going now? So we really do try to get to know our students and kind of celebrate the fact that we are both a school with advantages of a small school, also associated with a larger university. Anything else to add, anyone?
I think our placement in terms of literally geographically, and I'm sorry, it's the end of the day, so my energy level is altered. There's also like local businesses, you're in the center of kind of the community. It's kind of different from the Uptown campus. The Uptown campus is larger, more insulated because you're like traveling for miles in different facilities of the university. So I see that as an advantage also, to really kind of like explore the community. If you need to join your peers and go out for lunch, there's many businesses right around the corner. So that's really a positive that I see in terms of our location.
Mm-hmm. And parking's much easier.
And very pragmatic things like parking.
Lisa?
I would just also add, because of our geographical location, you can literally walk to the Capitol, and it's right on a bus line that goes back and forth, which you'll be able to access for free using your SUNY card. We have been able to establish a lot of field practicums within New York State government agencies, and so I know that tends to attract some students that are really wanting to look into policy, advocacy, the judicial branch. We've had placements with senators' offices. If the phrase starts the New York State office of, and then fill in every blank, we have placements with the Office of Substance Abuse, aging, mental health, OCFS, Children and Family Services, etc. So in case that's a bit of a draw for anyone.
Thank you.
One last thing I would like to add as a current and recent graduate student, we are right across the street from Washington Park, which is both beautiful to come in throughout the year. And if you have time between classes when it's nice out, maybe not now unless you're a snowbird like me, you can go out and eat lunch in Washington Park, take a break through it, use the trail runs, and come back to class. It's been really invaluable.
Thank you. Okay, so what do social workers do? It's kind of a big question, an important question. I like to say we do it all, right? But social workers are about bringing about change. All right, so we're often known as change agents. We typically look at the status quo and say the status quo is not serving the populations that we care about. And we want to make a change either for those individuals, those families, those communities, those organizations, those institutions. Okay. We are also scientific practitioners, meaning we use evidence to inform our practice, but we also use our practice to inform research as well. Okay, so that's what a scientific practitioner means. There are so many populations and roles that a social worker can assume, and you'll just see some of them kind of visual illustrated on the slide in front of you. And one of the things I think that's so interesting about social work is if I ask you, and I'm going to just pick on someone that I see, Holly, where do doctors work?
Multiple locations, so community health centers, community behavioral health centers, hospitals, private practice.
Right. Okay. But typically hospitals, right? They're working in medicine, right? Social workers, we're working in schools, in nursing homes, in hospitals, in police stations, in rehabs, in addictions clinics, in the state offices of, as Lisa said, okay? We are everywhere, right? So we're one of those professions where we really do cut across populations and settings. And again, with the goal of bringing about some type of change. The MSW is also an extremely versatile degree. Okay. It's one of those you can work with an MSW, say you're working in children and families for a couple of years, and then you decide after a couple of years, or maybe 5 years, that you want a change, and maybe you want to work with older adults. The MSW allows you to do that. It's an extremely versatile degree. Okay. And I will ask any of my team here, anything else to add? Okay.
Right, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, this was for people who can use your reaction buttons. How many people are considering other fields or professions? You might not be. You might not be. Oh, a couple people might be. I mean, one of the things that I was also in this, in this place quite a few years ago and looking at different professions that seem to fit. And I'm so glad that I picked social work because the path I thought I wanted became much more nuanced over time, and the social work profession has shifted with me as I have shifted, and I just really appreciate that about this profession.
Excellent point, Kate. Thank you. Any other comments from the team here?
I
Go ahead, Geraldine.
no, you go ahead, Kat.
I was just going to say in the chat, looking at Masters of Public Health or Masters in Social Work, we do have a joint program that might be of interest to several folks here.
Great, thank you for that. Jody?
And I was also going to share, I appreciate that our faculty member, Kate, talks about the nuance of still having questions about if this is the right thing for you, if this is the right place for you, because investing time, energy, resources, financially, and of all other sorts is a serious decision. So really ask whatever questions come to mind for you all, because this is it's an undertaking to engage in a graduate level program and even a graduate level master's in social work program. So these are things to really ask yourself.
Wonderful. Okay, so taking a closer look at the MSW program specifically. We are accredited by the Council on Social Work Education, that's CSWE. This is the body that sets the standards for social work education nationwide. It's extremely important that you are a school of social work, for a school of social work to be accredited by CSWE. Okay, what that means for you or for graduates of our program is that their degree is going to be recognized nationally. So they can go anywhere in the United States with their MSW, all right, and be able to, qualify for the licensing standards of that state based on their education. Okay. If you are looking at any other program or any other discipline, be sure to ask the school who their accrediting body is and if they are currently accredited. Incredibly important question, okay? The MSW program, it is a 60 credit hours program. The first 31 credits are considered your generalist year, the generalist curriculum. Here you're going to be learning really the building blocks of social work education. This is the foundation of practice in both individuals, families, communities, organizations, going to give you the foundation of work in policy and services, as well as human behavior. What is the typical development of families and communities? And then we move into more of the atypical development with human behavior too. So what does more of the psychopathology look like? And in addition to taking this amazing coursework, you're also in field for 1 year in your generalist year, okay? So in the MSW program, you have a total of 2 field placements. The first one is going to come in your first year, and that's going to be your generalist field. And I'm not going to steal Lisa's thunder because she's going to talk more about that in a little bit. All right. Once you're done with your first year, then you choose to go either into a clinical concentration, which is more of working again with individuals, families, groups, more in a smaller setting, more of a therapeutic milieu, if you will, or into the macro concentration. And the macro concentration is going to prepare you for working with larger systems, communities, organizations, institutions, policy work, advocacy, human community organizing. These are some of the macro placement jobs that are professions that our social workers go into. Okay.
And I just shared on the chat. Sometimes students really are kind of torn between the macro and the micro concentration. I added a document on there that kind of gives a brief overview of both of the concentrations. As our program stands now, you choose one or the other. Many students ask me, can I do both? Right now, as the program stands, you cannot, but there are ways to kind of instill some macro if you're a micro concentration and some micro if you're a macro concentration.
And I think one thing that's also important to note is even though our curriculum, we don't have, students can't officially do both concentrations. You are getting content, again, in that generalist year, in both the clinical work and in that macro practice work. And it is extremely common for someone to be a clinical concentration and then to be actually practicing at the macro level when they're done. Case in point, I was trained as a clinical social worker. I don't know if I practiced a day. I went right into administration and management, but I use those clinical skills every single day. Right. And I think the same would be true vice versa, in terms of people who are trained in macro and maybe they find themselves on a clinical route, right? And still using those skills to really help their clients. Okay.
And I also wanted to add, we didn't say this at the beginning, or maybe I missed it, but I know we're giving a lot of information. just trust yourself to receive whatever information is useful and is most needed for you right now. None of this has to be memorized. You'll get this information again and again through different times during your process. So yes, just no pressure to memorize anything, make decisions right now.
No. Actually, we don't even ask you to make the decision about clinical or macro until you're in the program and have had coursework in both the micro and in the macro practice areas. Okay. All right, so getting a little bit more specific in some of the various MSW program models. It is possible to take some courses as a non-degree student. What that means is you haven't been officially accepted into the MSW program, but you might be curious about taking a course or two to see if this is for you, if you like the coursework. And you can take up to 12 credits as a non-degree student. And there's specific courses that we have open to non-degree students, and Geraldine will work with those students, work to help the students identify which courses they are and when's the right time to register for them. But courses, if you take a course non-degree, it will count towards your MSW as long as you take it within 3 years of when you start, okay? The full-time program, as I said earlier, it's a 2-year program. The first year being your generalist and the second year being your concentration year. Generally speaking, you're expected to take 4 courses plus field every semester, except for your last one, okay? So you'll see that field is integrated throughout your education. The field is kind of that practice arena, right? So you get to take all the content, the skills, the theories that you're learning in the courses and use them in the field setting, okay? The part-time program, it's really the full-time program spread out across a longer time period. So the part-time program is 4 years, okay? Scheduled to take 2 courses in each semester and 1 course in the summer. And if you are a part-time student, field occurs in year 2 and in year 4, okay? And again, Lisa, you're going to talk more about field in a bit, so we'll hold all those as well, okay? We also have an advanced standing program. Now, the advanced standing, what that means is it's a specific program for people who have a BSW, all right? So they already have a bachelor's in social work from an accredited program, okay? And because those people get their generalist year in their junior and senior year of their undergraduate education. So they don't have to take all those 60 credits all over again because they've done some of it in undergrad, right? So it's like an abbreviated program and it's 1 calendar year. And what we do is we literally can apply up to 21 credits of their undergraduate education and apply it towards their master's education, okay? Taking that 60 credit MSW down to a 39 credit MSW. And because, again, field is that practice arena, right? There's 1 academic year, 1 calendar year of field instruction as well that the advanced standing students do. So full-time and part-time students will do 2 placements, 2 different placements. Advanced standing, they do 1 placement. That's a full calendar year one, okay? And then we also have dual degrees in the field of criminal justice, public health, Albany law, and the MSW PhD. Okay, if you have any questions about these, we can maybe set up some time for you to talk about them individually or perhaps put them in the chat, and at the end we can address some of them. These tend to be a little more specific. Generally speaking, a dual degree is 2 degrees for the time and price of 1.5, okay? Except for the MSW, the Albany law. That's really 2 degrees for the time and price of 2 degrees, okay? But it allows for coursework from 1 degree to count towards the other degree, okay? And it can shorten the time that it takes you to complete both degrees. All right, Geraldine, anything to add?
There's a couple questions in the chat
Oh,
that I
yeah,
think we
please.
could address here. One is we have a couple students asking about the possibility of registering for spring 2023 classes, both matriculated or non-matriculated.
For non-matriculated, if you are a non-degree student, have already applied as a non-degree student, yes, you can apply. Those classes for non-degree student for the spring are sometimes first come, first serve. So the slots may be already full. So if you can't, if the classes are full, then you won't be able to enroll in those. But yes, you can still register for the spring if you're a non-degree student. And then, does that answer the question? Then
So I
let's see.
think, so if you want to start coursework in the spring, okay, it's not possible to do it as a matriculated student right now. We matriculate in the fall only for the MSW program. Okay, so if you really want to start courses in the spring, you would need to do so as a non-degree student. And there is still time to apply for non-degree study. Okay, and as Geraldine was saying, some of the courses might be full, but there still should be some courses that are open for non-degree study. And we have a specific process for non-degree study. Geraldine, would you drop the website into the chat?
I'm not sure I have the website.
Or Alice, if you have the website? And if neither of you have it, I will drop it in a minute.
Which website?
For non-degree. Okay, and hopefully that answers the question about non-degree. Were there other questions in the chat?
There was one more about someone has done a year of postgraduate work in social work. Would that qualify for advanced standing?
So advanced standing is extremely specific for it to qualify. It has to be a BS or BA in social work from an accredited school of social work. Okay, and anything else other than that does not qualify towards advanced standing. Okay.
There are a couple questions coming in, Crystal, about the dual degree program, MSW PhD.
Oh,
So I don't know if we want to talk any more about that now or collect names and speak with those folks offline, but just to let you know, there's some interest in the
yeah,
chat.
sure. Here. Okay, thank you. So the MSW PhD, that's right. That was
Yeah.
it. Okay. Yeah, so actually, interesting. It's very rare that we have two representatives or two people, I think, who went through that program.
Right.
Here. Or is it three? Kate, were you in that program as well? Oh my gosh, you have three people who graduated from that on this call, which is really unusual. So I'm actually, since we're so well represented, I'm going to see if anybody else wants to talk about it.
I'm currently in the MSW PhD program in the PhD only section. I completed my MSW in the first 2 years and graduated in May of 2021. It's a really good program for those of you who know you want to go into research and academia as a possibility. As a reminder, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but an MSW is considered a terminal degree in social work. The PhD is not necessary, but clearly as I'm getting one, I think it's a really valuable tool, especially if you want to go into research, advanced policy analysis, academia, things like that. It can be very helpful. I'll leave it to anyone else who wants to talk about their experience.
I think you covered it, Alice.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a great choice for me once I knew very clearly that that my passion was research. I did practice as a post MSW social worker for 2 years, which is a requirement to teach practice in an accredited social work program. So it's definitely a research-oriented degree at our school.
Absolutely. Okay. It takes, I think you're doing 5 years of coursework with the MSW PhD.
It so
Four.
tracked, it is possible to do all of your coursework in 3 years, more likely 4. I'm at 3.5 or so. And then you move into, we don't have comprehensive exams, we have comprehensive essay. So that'll be your transition from coursework to dissertation. And then your dissertation, which is very, very variable depending on the area of study, the person's own motivation and availability. And quite honestly, if you wind up working outside the program, that often slows people down. Our track for the MSW PhD is somewhere between 5 to 7 years predicted. Our average, I believe, is around 6 or 7 for most students. We have some other questions about other dual degree programs, particularly the MSW MPH. And then we have a specific question about international students. I'm not sure what the WES evaluation is, but someone's asking if that's compulsory.
Okay. I'm not sure about the WES evaluation. You may need to get more information on that and follow up with you. Okay. Thank you, Alice. In terms of the MSW MPH, we do have, let's see, I'm looking at the chat, with the concentration in mental health. Is it an option? And if it is it advisable for someone interested in providing mental health services? Okay, so the MSW MPH right now is macro. It focuses on the macro. But here's what I will say to that is that we really do, if students have a specific focus, we try to kind of work with you to figure that out. Okay, so I wouldn't say no to that. I'd say let's have a deeper conversation, because if that is something that you want to do, I think we can make that happen. Okay. And the MSW MPH, it's 3 years. And again, you're doing coursework in both the School of Social Welfare and the School of Public Health. And you're taking your generalist field placement in School of Social Work. And then your last placement, it kind of overlaps between the field of social work and public health. Okay. What happened to my screen? I went to the wrong slide. Okay. I'm going to move us on for the sake of time. And again, if I'm going too quick and people need follow-up information about these dual degrees, we can certainly set up a time to speak with you kind of offline and privately. Yeah. Yay, Lisa.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. So I am here to speak with you about field education, which is, of course, our signature pedagogy of social work education. I understand from peeking in the chat that we have folks on the call who are interested in the part-time program, the full-time program, and the advanced standing program. So I will try to kind of speak to each of those, right? And then I'll be able to take any questions you might have related to field. Crystal has already given a great overview of the fact that first field, which you see on the first bullet here on the slide, is taken in your generalist year of either the 2-year or the 4-year part-time program. So your generalist year, if you're in the 2-year program, is year 1. Your generalist field is taken in the 2nd year of the 4-year part-time program. And the generalist field practicum is responsible for providing you with exposure to really a broad cross-section of generalist social work practice skills, such as engaging, assessing, brief interventions, supportive counseling, connection to case management services, community resources, right? And some meso and macro level work, participating in team meetings or board meetings or community advisory meetings, potentially creating marketing and tabling at a fair for an agency. Those are just some examples, okay? The field office, which is my team, my assistant directors and myself, select your generalist placement for you and give that to you as a field placement assignment. We do that after you submit to us a thorough field application and your resume. So you're going to tell us a lot of things about yourself and what you have done before, maybe what you haven't done before, what type of work experiences you've had, what type of supervisory style you like, things like that. And then we make the match based on what we think will provide you with experience that rounds out things you haven't done before, okay? That's the first year field placement. You will accumulate a minimum of 450 hours in that first year field placement. That occurs by attending field typically full days on Mondays and Tuesdays. 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 7 to 3. Some of our students are placed in school districts where the children, arrive at school quite early, but that's the general time frame that you would need to be available for field in first field generalist. To answer a question that I know was already in the chat, if you work full-time and are engaging in our part-time program, the expectation is the same, that you have Mondays and Tuesdays available and free to participate in your generalist field practicum. So the best advice I can give you is to use your first year in the program when you're just taking classes to speak with your employer in advance and start working with them to create a plan that might allow you to have those Mondays and Tuesdays free. Students in the past have been very successful in altering their work schedule, completing their 35 or 40 hours a week just in a different schedule, potentially. And on the next slide, I will talk about a possibility of utilizing some or all of your job as field placement, but it's not guaranteed. So the takeaway should be weekday availability is necessary for field, whether you're a full-time or part-time student or advanced standing. That's first field. 2 days a week, starts in September and ends in May, and you stay at the same agency in the same field placement throughout that entire academic year, okay? Second field. For students in the full-time program, that happens in the second and final year of your program. For students in a part-time program, that happens in your fourth and final year of your program. And this occurs after you have selected the clinical or the macro concentration. You will be able to find your own second year field placement. So we take students through a whole step-by-step process of how to find the field placement that you desire, geographically, what population you want to work with, what type of setting you want to be in, et cetera. And it has to match the track that you selected. So if you're taking clinical classes, you're going to do a clinical field placement. If you're taking the macro track, you're going to do a macro field placement. Also, you'll accumulate a minimum of 450 hours. Typically, second field actually starts at the end of August and goes until May. Again, one field practicum, 2 days a week over the course of the entire academic year. Second field typically takes place on Thursdays and Fridays. So now I want to talk about advanced standing, since we do have someone or more than one student in the room who is interested in advanced standing. As Crystal indicated, advanced standing students come to us with their BS or their BSW degree already. So advanced standing students take one field placement only at one agency, and that field placement is selected for you by the field office. Also, again, after receiving an extensive field application and your resume that tells us all about you and what you're actually interested in doing. And here we're trying to match you with what you are interested in doing. or a population or setting in which you're going to gain the skills that you tell us you want on your application. Okay. You will complete a minimum of 600 hours of field as an advanced standing student. If you're admitted, there'll be way more information to come about what your summer is going to look like in the program as opposed to your fall and spring. So as it stands right now, our advanced standing students take a field practicum class in the summer, where they're doing direct practice skill development, client simulated sessions, all kinds of things that are practice related. And then they actually do that field placement in the fall and the spring. I don't want to go too much into detail. I think all of the bullets kind of speak to them for themselves and things that I've kind of already mentioned, that I just think it's helpful for you to kind of know that evening and weekend internships are rarely available. They're pretty much not available right now for the generalist year at all. I can think of maybe one. We have a couple more that are available in the second advanced concentration year. Think of like a hospital emergency room that is operating fully in the evening and weekend, right? And they might have a clinical field placement available. But one of the trickiest parts of the MSW program is making sure you're available for the practicum piece. I could talk for hours about field, but I think that's it for this slide. I think there's another field slide. And then there might even be some questions too. Okay. So yes, the field office does offer some specialized field options. Trying to think of the best order to talk about these. So block field placements. Students in going into their second field practicum. So think second field, that means if you're in the full-time program, you're doing that in what year? 2. And if you're in the part-time program, what year? 4. You may qualify to complete a block field placement. It's an application only process. You'll apply to us, there's prerequisites, and you'll get approved or denied. But if approved, you might be able to take your second year field placement as what we call a summer block. So think about it, you take fall and spring your first year, and the very summer right afterwards, you do your whole entire second field placement in one summer, 5 days a week. It's pretty intense. Not many people can fit that into their schedule, meet all of the prerequisites, but some do. And another block field placement option is, instead of doing your second field placement in the fall and spring, just think of it as moving it summer and fall. So you'd be in first field fall and then spring, and then second field summer and fall, but you would be done with field in December. And some students, because of having taken non-degree courses, et cetera, they might be eligible to even graduate then in December instead of the next spring. So just want you to know that that's a possibility. I'm skipping around a little bit. What you see as internships in aging and the Albany internships in mental health, they're specialized stipended field placements that are also application only. So we have many students that apply to work obviously with aging or at evidence-based practice mental health programs in the area. Again, there is a seminar associated with these specialized field placements, a stipend as well, and some additional kind of support and parameters around those placement opportunities. So those are very exciting. A newer option that has only been offered and allowed by our accrediting body for a few years is something called employment-based field. That can be an option for first or second placement. I will tell you the vast majority of approvals for employment-based field are for first field, because most folks aren't able to work in the types of environments that second field occurs in without their master's degree in social work, right? Employment-based field is application only. Excuse me. Students have to demonstrate to us how their current human services job aligns with the different social work competencies that you're supposed to practice and achieve in field. And if they do align, some or all of your field placement hours can be that job. So that's the only possible way that a student might not have to carve out full 2 days a week to go to a separate field placement. But I can tell you honestly, not all employment-based field applications are approved, because I have to make sure that you're kind of hitting all the targets of what you need to be exposed to and learn in field. That was a lot. I purposely am not looking at the chat because I'll be stuttering and sputtering and getting distracted. Should we take chat questions? Do you want to do all questions at the end for field?
You said there was one chat question, I think was an interesting one. It was, is that second block option available for advanced standing students as well?
No, that is for part-time or full-time students. You want your advanced standing, you want everyone in the advanced standing cohort to be in class and field at the same exact time, because your classroom assignments, your field assignments are going to align. Without going into more detail.
No, that's great. And there was also one about, I answered it in the chat, but just want to make sure I got my information correct, asking if the field placements are paid stipended, and I responded the vast majority of field placements are not stipended or paid.
That's correct. You see on the screen, the internships in aging and Albany internships in mental health were created. They are stipended field placements, but they're small programs. There are some other agencies that, because of maybe they have grant money or some money left over in a certain pot that they have to use up, some years they are able to offer their own stipend to a student, but it's very few agencies, to be fair and to be honest. And I tend to find that they are more in the second year. The more clinical or macro sites, such as the VA, the Veterans Administration, some other agencies sometimes are able to offer stipends. So that's a good question. I wish I had a different answer for you, but wanting to be honest.
Okay, and I think I've answered most of the questions from the chat about field. There is one in there when you're done from Caitlin. She's asking about her specific
Yeah, I'll peek through and
website.
try to answer some. Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see here. Oh, look, the PhD in social work. I think we kind of covered a lot of this already. All right. Generally speaking, it is, as Alice so wonderfully described, it's really about people going into research, advanced policy work, working in academia, okay, and that the MSW is considered the terminal degree if you want to practice. Okay, if you are looking for an advanced degree beyond the MSW that's really focused on practice or clinical work, that is actually the DSW. It's a doctorate in social work. We do not have that program, but I always say this is not a talk to get you to come to our program. It's really a talk for you to find the best fit for you. So if you're looking at really honing your skills beyond the MSW clinically, you're looking for more of a DSW program than a PhD program. Okay. Let's see. All right, tuition and scholarships. And I'm going to let Alice take the lead on this.
Oh, boy. Well, for now, I'm going to put the link that it says at this link in the chat for anyone who wants to follow up or follow along. So the in-state per semester tuition for the full-time MSW is, as we can see, a little over $7,500, which equates to about $15,000 a year, which is absolutely wonderful when you look at the costs for compared to private schools and universities. They just seem to keep growing. The part-time program is about half of that. We do have, as we'll talk about more in the next page, there are some scholarship opportunities that are highlighted in the next page. Yeah,
Alice, one thing I will say, when you're looking at the tuition, if you're just looking at Albany's general website, you want to make sure that you're looking at the tuition for MSW students. It's slightly different. Okay, for schools of social work, we have a differential
correct.
tuition fee. So make sure you're looking at the right one. That's a common question that we get. Okay.
Correct. You will still also complete the FAFSA for American students that you've completed in your bachelor's degree as well. So that will be helpful. And then when we look at some of the tuition and scholarship opportunities that are available at UAlbany, some of these are unique to our program and some of them are across the university. The GOP, the Graduate Opportunity Program, is for students who were part of, and we have so many acronyms, so Crystal, correct me if I get this one wrong. I believe it's HEOP.
HEOP, yes, don't ask me what it means. You're
Yes.
right.
If you received
Higher
HEOP,
education, higher education opportunity program, I think.
Thank
Maybe.
you.
thank you, Geraldine. So if you received a HEOP grant or scholarship in undergrad, you would potentially be eligible for the Graduate Opportunity Program. The Carson Carr Diversity Fellowship has a separate application that you submit with your application. A note, the Carson Carr Diversity Fellowship, if you do want to apply for that, is due on the 15th of January as opposed to the 31st. So it is an earlier deadline. That's about halfway down on the tuition and scholarships link that I dropped for you. The Carson Carr Diversity Fellowship is a full tuition and small stipend for your whole time in the program. These are very few and far between, but I encourage anyone who wants to apply. We have internal scholarships from the School of Social Welfare, which you would apply for after you're accepted as a student. Graduate assistantships, which means that you would work for the university, for the School of Social Welfare part-time. There's separate links for that. The FAFSA I went over. For students, this is one that I really like that was highlighted. I don't know if we have any graduates of UAlbany undergrad, but if we do, if you are here, we have specific grants and scholarships that are available for graduates of our bachelor's programs here at UAlbany, and those would be the Dean's Merit Award and the Great Dane Scholarship. Any questions on those? Cinnamon links to the scholarships don't seem to be working. Oh no, let me see if I can put that again.
Okay.
See if that one works for folks who said that it wasn't working. And are international students eligible to apply for scholarships? That's a question I do not have the answer to, but I hope.
So international students, they may be able to apply for some of the School of Social Welfare scholarships, but I do not believe they are eligible to apply for the others.
And I saw something about the SUNY flagship match program. I'm not sure I am familiar with that program. Dan, I don't know if you have a link or something to share, then, you know, it'll be something we can look into, but.
Yeah.
I just saw like an ad for that for the SUNY flagship match. It's for like they match your in-state tuition. I just saw it really quickly and I just thought I'd ask.
No, that's a
Yes.
great. I've not heard of that.
I did a quick Google search. I see some reference to it at other SUNYs, but yeah, I haven't heard about it here at SUNY
Yeah.
Albany.
We're not considered one of the flagships. So that might be why.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move us on to housing. Alice and Geraldine.
So I think there's some links. Yep, there are some links shown on there. I think we can put them on the chat. So, there's different ways that you can look for housing. I know there's Facebook groups that are like providing information about where can you have like, sublet a room or find a rental. There's a housing guide linked on there as well. As Lisa mentioned earlier, your UAlbany ID card can provide you free public transportation service. And we are, like we mentioned, in the downtown area, and there's a lot of housing for graduate, undergraduate students in the surrounding neighborhoods. So I will try to put those links in the chat because I have them somewhere else, just so people could have reference to it.
One of the things I also recommend is if you're accepted and you know you're coming, we do have a listserv that's open to students and people in the community. So around May, we find that there are students who are leaving because they're graduating. And they may have an apartment that they're giving up or a friend who needs a roommate. So that's kind of a good time if you are looking for housing to kind of get it linked to that MSW listserv. And once you're accepted, we're going to send you lots of information about how do you sign on to these things as well.
Thank you so much, Alice. I saw you link those.
Okay. Any questions about housing? And you can just feel free to kind of just unmute yourself and ask.
We have a couple questions, not necessarily about housing, but it might be a good chance. We have one about what the typical full-time weekly schedule looks like for students, for commuters in scheduling. And then one about international students and graduate assistantships.
Okay, so I'll deal with the typical schedule one. So typically full-time, right? Is it full-time? So typically for a full-time student, first year, you are in your field placement on Mondays and Tuesdays. We will offer your classes that you need. And remember, you're taking 4 classes, okay, in addition to field. So we'll offer your classes on a combination of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the evening or online. So you really get to decide how you want to kind of to take those 4 additional classes. It's possible to come in on a Thursday and do a Thursday morning, a Thursday afternoon, maybe a Thursday evening, and you knock 3 of them out in one day if you are so inclined. To be clear, I'm not recommending that, just saying it's possible, okay? Or you could do 2 classes possibly on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Thursday, 1 Wednesday, 1 Friday. So it's a combination, all right? But what we try to do is, again, if your field is in on Monday and Tuesday for first year, we're offering your coursework Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, primarily, and you will have some online options and some evening options. And conversely, if you're in your second year, you are scheduled to be in field on Thursday and Friday. So we're going to offer your coursework mostly on Monday, Tuesday, again, evenings, maybe a Wednesday course or a weekend course as well, okay? So we try to offset your course days from your field days, and then you get to kind of build your schedule based on what works for you and maybe what courses interest you more. Okay, I hope that helped answer the question. Okay, as far the international student, what was the question again, Alice? I'm sorry.
Are international students able to apply for assistantships?
I At the MSW level, honestly, I don't want to misspeak. I don't want to give misinformation. So that's one, if we could take that person's name, maybe they could drop their name in the email in the chat and we follow up with them to provide that information.
Are there application fee waivers for international students available?
Similarly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And then one last about scheduling. Are part-time classes available, or are classes available in the evening for part-time students so that they can work full-time still?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. One thing I will say, it's so important, like we don't guarantee courses for students. So if it's important for you to have a particular type of course or schedule, it is so important that you register for courses when registration opens. So if you're a part-time student needing courses in the evening, I always say register as soon as you possibly can, right? Because we're also finding that a number of full-time students are working as well, and they're looking for evening courses too. So just to make sure that you can get the sections that you really need, always best to register as soon as registration opens. Okay. And licensure. Okay, so we're going to talk just a little bit about licensure because this is something that happens after you get your MSW, and it's kind of ironic that you're interested in the MSW right now to start to talk about licensure. Okay, but generally speaking, licensure for social work, it sets the scope of practice. It's going to define what the functions and the jobs and the tasks that you can do when you're practicing. In New York State, there are 2 levels of licensing. Both of them occur after you graduate. The first tier is the LMSW. Anyone who has an MSW degree is eligible for the LMSW. It's a test that you actually take after you graduate, okay? And it allows you to practice in a variety of clinical fields. Now, the LCSW, that's the second tier of licensing. You have to be practicing as an LMSW for 3,000 hours, okay? So it's at a minimum of 3 years, all right, after the LMSW. And then you have to take another test that's really focused more on mental health and diagnosis. And this allows you to practice independently, right, and supervise other mental health professionals, okay? That's the LCSW. I can let you know now that right now, either your clinical concentration or macro concentration are your education will prepare you for the LMSW. You're eligible to take the LMSW. If you're interested in the LCSW and you're a macro concentration student, it gets just a slightly bit trickier. We just need to pay more attention to your coursework and make sure you take one additional practice course to make sure that your education, okay, is eligible for the LCSW. And again, there's so much information that's going to prep you for this along the way. We have people from the state education department that oversees the licensing come and talk to our students. And we also have licensing prep courses that we provide the opportunities for students to take them when they're getting closer to the licensing. Okay. And as Vicki said, right now, one of the things that I'm working on with her and other deans in New York State is about this LMSW licensing and seeing if we can do away with that test after you graduate requirement. Okay. So just some of the things that we're working on there. All right. And the application process now, so that's going to be all you. Okay. You ready? Alice, did you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I was taking down the emails of our international students. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Had to switch back. So I was on a different slide. There we go. For your MSW application process and materials, our deadline for application is January 31st at 11:59 for summer fall 2023 start. Now, again, as a reminder, the Carson Carr Diversity Fellowship moves that deadline up to January 15th for anyone who's looking at that. In general, for our application process, you'll need 3 references. we ask and suggest that these be professional references and not personal references. They can be professors, supervisors, bosses, maybe coworkers, a field supervisor. What we really would suggest avoiding is having someone like your grandmother or a family friend who you don't have a professional relationship with writing a reference letter. We want them to be able to speak to your ability to complete coursework and or your ability to succeed in field and in a professional setting and environment. You'll include your resume, all post-high school transcripts, so any colleges you attended, even if you didn't graduate. I myself went to a couple undergrad colleges, so I had to get those together and put those up there. Your personal statement, which will be about 3 to 4 pages long and has some specific prompts on our application page. Excuse me. Your application fee is $75, which will be due. There are some waivers available. We will follow up on whether international students are able to qualify for those. And then the link for that, I will drop down here. We have a question about the personal statement says 3 to 5 pages. Can it be longer than 5 pages? My answer on that is as someone who has now started teaching in the program as well as part of my PhD studies, we really would advise you to stick to those page guidelines, as that is part of the professionalism and something we're going to look for in students. Correctly. As Lisa said, it's recommended you stay within the page guideline to demonstrate your ability to concisely respond to the questions. Oh, my mouth is dry, ignore me. But also we want you to be able, when you graduate, we want to start training you to be able to do conferences or presentations in your work environment where you are told to deliver something 3 to 5 pages, 3 to 5 minutes. We want you to have that skill to be able to follow that. Any other questions about application or materials? Additional information about the dual degrees. You have to meet the requirements for both programs. In general, from what I remember, Albany Law is the only one that has a specialty exam that's required, and that's the LSAT that you still have to do. Other than that, we don't require GREs anymore, which is exciting. The advanced standing program, 1 letter of the recommendation, reminder you need 3. 1 of those 3 must be from a supervisor or liaison for your field placement, meaning someone who oversaw you and can speak to your field professionalism. GREs and interviews, as I said, are no longer required for our program, but they might be required for a dual degree program. Specifically, I believe Albany Law is the only one I know of that is still holding higher standards. Any follow-up questions? Oh, see, we're at the Q&A period. Oh, there I am. My hair was a different color at that time. How many hours are each class? So in general, our classes are 3-hour seminar blocks. So when Crystal mentioned that you could schedule to come in and have 1 class Thursday morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening, it's doable, but it is a long day. Having done it, it can be useful if you're trying to leave a day open, but it's going to be a lot of work. Something as a current and former student that I will remind people of that we don't necessarily think about is stacking all of your classes on one day generally means all of your reading and assignments are also going to be due on that day. So just think about that when you're scheduling your workloads. Cinnamon asks, what do students do for medical insurance?
The university used to offer medical insurance for students, and I don't believe they do that anymore. So I
We
think
have a
it's,
student health services center, which provides some minimal like services, I believe, but
Yeah, there are. I will say to encourage people to apply for assistantships, both within the department and without. If you are on an assistantship, you're eligible to join the Graduate Student Employment Union, which would provide medical insurance. That's pretty awesome. As another incentive to apply for assistantships, both within or without the department. If we don't have any available left in the department, it is possible for students to work outside the department as well.
all right, so Cinnamon, I'm sure that probably is not the answer that you wanted to hear, but the university does not provide it for graduate students other than outside of the employment. Any other questions?
Can international students benefit from licensure upon graduation from the program?
If you're working in your specific area, so if you're looking to work in the United States, specifically in a state that requires licensure, and each state will have different regulations on who's licensed at what level. All right. So if you're still working in the United States, absolutely, you can benefit from becoming licensed. If you are looking to return to your home country, I would definitely recommend that you look at what are the necessary kind of credentials needed for practice in your home country. Typically, I've found that our students who come to the US, to UAlbany, get their license when they return to their home countries. They're usually taking like leadership fields in their home country, like they may be the head of an agency at that point, right? So that it's still very marketable for them.
I also, I'm sorry to interject, and I know questions are still going through. I just want to acknowledge that Yema and Camila are on the call, and I'm so thankful that they've been patiently waiting for their time to speak, but it's also approaching 6, and that is the time frame that we gave them. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge the time that it is and also utilize them if to the best of our ability in the next 5 minutes.
I am
unless they're
so
willing to stay
sorry.
later, which I don't want to impose on them. No, we've been answering questions. It's fine.
So we have 2 students now on the call. So if there are any questions for students, please.
They've been here for a while. I think the next slide, Alice, is about the students. Maybe questions for students, some example questions, but hello, Yama. Hello, Camila.
Hi. Hello. How is everybody? I actually think I know some people on this prospective student chat that like don't go to the school already, so that's fun. So to answer these 3 questions, what made me come to UAlbany was a number of reasons. I'm from this area, so it made sense. Also, my mom went to UAlbany to go to get her social work degree as well. So yeah, that's really one of the main reasons. Those are the main reasons why I came to UAlbany, and it's a great school, so I'm happy that I did. But what is my advice for maintaining work/school balance? I'm so happy that this is a question, because I remember during my seminar, I was basically told that like we're not going to be able to work as full-time students, and that was extremely terrifying. Yeah, that was really scary. So, because like most of us do have to work, I would say. So yes, I am working currently, as well as doing my field placement, and I did that also last year. I'm working like 20 hours a week at my job or so, and I'm really like grateful and happy that I have a job that's able to be like flexible in terms of that. So if you're looking for a job when you come here, like remember flexibility, if that's even an option. I would just recommend like trying to get something that will allow you to flex your time a little bit, because you're gonna need it big time. And maintaining work/school balance. You need to get a planner. It will be your best friend. If you don't get a planner, I don't want to know what will happen to you if you don't know how to use one. Yeah, that's like one of the biggest things that you'll need to do to just keep everything straight in your head, like in terms of your assignments, appointments for your life, your classes, reading due dates, like just it's necessary. And I also recommend getting different colors to color coordinate or color code your items, so you can just look quickly and know, okay, I have a doctor's appointment, so I can't schedule a meeting for right now. And it's just really necessary. And then yeah, I answered the third question, so there you go. Bam, that's me.
Yema, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Yema. So what made me come to UAlbany? So I went to UAlbany for undergrad, graduated in 2016, and I liked the community. I liked the way it felt. And so I said, you know what? Let me give UAlbany another chance. Let me go to the master's program. I was a little confused that we were in the downtown campus, which is away from uptown, but I liked it because have you ever heard the saying, like, I want to go to a place where everyone knows my name? Like literally, everyone knows my name. My professors know who I am. It's even to the point that I was one of those students that, you know, Crystal says, don't stack up your classes back to back to back. That's me. I did that. So I remember one time I had my morning class and I was super tired. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go home for my afternoon class and I'll come back in the evening. On my way in the parking lot, my professor said, hey, Yema, you coming to class today? And I said, yeah, I'm just going to go get something from my car. I'll be there. But it was nice to know that she cared enough to actually say my name and ask me, are you coming? So that's one great thing about UAlbany that, you know, it's not in the question, but I wanted to, like, you know, say it. My advice to maintaining my work, school, life balance is literally self-care. Like literally taking time for myself, whether that means turning off the lights, listening to music, getting a massage, going for a walk, doing whatever it is that fuels you. I found that my first semester, I like to do crossword puzzles. I never did, but I liked it. And that was something I learned about myself. I'm like, okay, this kind of relaxes me. Now, can you work while in the program? Yes, I worked full-time, 40 hours while doing my internship, while being a full-time student, but I worked overnights. So I would have all my classes one days, but I would work overnight. So it wasn't as hard, it wasn't as bad. Plus my job wasn't too demanding. And my employer knew I was in school, so it wasn't too bad. So finding a job that is sympathetic to your situation would be great. But yes, it's possible. I don't recommend it, but it's possible. And that's my spiel.
Thank you once again, Yema. Camila, I'm sorry, I did not see you on the Zoom call. I'm just so limited in who I see because I'm sharing my screen, so I do apologize.
That's okay. That's why we're a team, Crystal.
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Camila's right. Getting a planner will save your life. For 2 weeks, I didn't use the planner and I felt like my life was over. So get a planner. It will help.
All right. Are there any questions for the students in the chat?
Not in the chat, but I don't know if anyone on the call wants to unmute themselves and ask Yema or Camila a question before they sign off.
And go play Tetris.
I know, I love Tetris.
What were your concentrations? What are your concentrations in the MSW program?
So I'm doing the clinical path. And I'm doing like I'll tell you right now. So my internship is at the UAlbany Counseling Center. So I do group therapy, individual therapy, couples therapy with UAlbany students clinically. And I love it.
Yeah, I'm also clinical concentration, and that was a somewhat difficult decision to make at first, but then I realized that if I am going to be a macro, well, so it was difficult because I love macro work and I'm very passionate about macro work, and that's kind of what I do at my current job actually. And I love it. So I was like, okay, I love macro, yes, but I also want to at some time in my life start making policy and laws and regulations and things like that. And if I want to make them like as an informed person, that's not just making stupid rules for people on the ground floor to follow that makes their lives way more difficult. I want to have a lot of experience in that position myself so that I'm not one of those annoying managers that make stupid rules for people that make no sense. So you can do both. Yeah, if it's difficult to decide which one, it's really like a personal decision. So I think it's best to like decide what exactly you want to do and where you want to go with that and kind of figure it out and keep yourself open and don't decide until like you really have to, which is I guess second year.
Can I ask you, Camilla, what your internship is and whether or not either one of you, whether it's stipend?
Yes, my internship is not a stipend, but they did already offer me a job, so that's cool. And it's at the Ellis State Street Mental Health Clinic outpatient for adults. So they have, it's one building for the mental health unit, and they have adults, kids, and like pros recovery groups. There's a lot of different things going on there, but I'm in the adult clinic and it's awesome and I love it. And no, I'm not getting paid right now, but when I graduate, I will be. So that's cool.
When you graduate, will you have your LCSW or is it?
No. So when I graduate, I'll have my MSW, and then I'll have to take a test and pay money to get my LMSW. And then I'll have to do 3,000 hours. Yes. Yeah. And then I'll be able to pay more money and take another test for my LCSW.
But you'll still be hired to do counseling? Or
yeah. Yeah, so you don't need to have an LCSW to do counseling because you need counseling hours in order to get the LCSW. So once you become an well, I'm doing counseling now as a not even MSW also since I'm an intern. So
right.
Yes, that's how that works.
So
and also I read an article the other day that Tetris is therapeutic. There's like studies on it.
It's if you're doing counseling as an LMSW or as an intern, you just have to make sure that you're receiving a specific type of supervision in order to do that without your LCSW.
And I see a question from Rachel. I think you pronounce it Rachel, even though it's spelled a little differently from what I've seen before. Is the program as hard as you thought or heard? That is their question.
So I'll answer that, but first I want to answer Cinnamon. I'm currently not being paid. I don't have a stipend. I'm getting paid in experience, and it's great. But no, I'm not getting paid. Was the program harder than I thought or heard? It's very challenging emotionally. Like coursework, no, because I knew what I signed up for, but it's a lot of like reflecting and looking within yourself, because in order to help someone, you need to help yourself and be okay and be good with your person. So it's a lot of self-reflection that I found was the most hardest, because we don't like talking about ourselves. We don't like dealing with our own demons and what makes us tick. So how can you help someone else? So that was hard, very hard for me.
I guess I didn't really know what to expect. I figured it was going to be difficult because it's a graduate program and like, yeah, that. So, but I guess I would agree with Yema also, like the coursework, you know what you're signing up for. So like you can kind of get that, but there are a lot of things that you learn about yourself. through this assignments directly, like asking you to learn about yourself, and then you end up learning a lot of things about yourself more indirectly too, because of just like how busy you are and how like many things that you have to get done at all times. I've noticed that a lot of my not as desirable behaviors have come out in these last 2 years, which have been helpful because I've been able to work on them with the support of like my whole class. And it's awesome because like, I don't know if anyone else did like the undergrad program, but I didn't, but I never had professors who are social workers. And that is a different ball game because they are compassionate and understanding. And like, that doesn't mean you can't do your work and whatever, but like, it's just such a relief knowing that you're talking to a social worker rather than like an econ professor. So it's just different. So you get more support, I feel like. I don't know. That's how I feel.
And I also want to put a and next to Camila's statement. You are still speaking with a faculty member though. So although they're a social worker, you have to remember role, purpose, function. They are not there to be your social worker. They are a social worker. They're there to hold you accountable for what their syllabus is enlisting for you to complete. It's important. And I love the way, Camilla, you bravely said, like my undesirable, or I forgot the word you said, behaviors. This is a program that will challenge and in some ways demand that you look at your own behaviors, because we are really testing how you can show up professionally for other people that are in need. So it's super important for you to be aware of your own behaviors, because there will be things rubbing up against those reactions whenever you're in the program, when you're in your internship, when you're in a role of a change agent or assisting within social services to people that are vulnerable. So in many ways, yes, the program is uncomfortable, but if you remember your why, there you will prevail, you will persevere, along with the self-care, the healing justice practices that you will incorporate.
Can we highlight accountability? Like professors will hold you accountable, but they're very compassionate and understanding if you go and speak to them beforehand. They're not going to baby you. They're treating you as an adult, but at the same time, life happens and they're humans. They get it, but they will hold you accountable for your actions.
And we did not pay Yema to say that.
I wanted to even add to what Yema and Camila just said and some of the questions. When you stack your classes, go for it, but understand that social work graduate level classrooms are not where you're going to sit for 3 hours and be lectured to, right? So you can't just kind of be tired and be there with not really listening. There's interactive activities, there's participation expectations during the class that might involve some of that brain work when you're starting to think about something that happened to you when you were younger and you're freaking out about it, right? So think about your mental energy also that you'll want to put into your coursework and your field work as you're kind of just creating a schedule that works for you. That's how you will get the most out of the program, because something I always say is from an MSW program, you might be able to pass your classes, but you're going to get out of it how much you are able to put into it, how much you're willing to dig and do the work and think and deal with the ick.
Mila?
I liked that term, mental energy. That's been a huge theme of these last 2 years for me. And finding out what I have been putting mental energy towards. And this is like a lot of the self-work that's been happening indirectly and directly, because like, you know, you're so busy and there's a lot of things that you just do in your life, you know, regularly. You don't realize how much energy you put into it until there's a bunch of other things that you have to put into your life and you're like scattered all over the place. So maybe it's probably a good time to start now, just taking inventory of like, what do I do on a daily basis. Like, what are the core things that I need to do? What are the things that I do, but I don't really need to do? What are the things that are kind of like causing me to not get things done? If I had done that beforehand, I probably would be a little bit more sane feeling, but it's just like, yeah, mental energy, you're gonna be really working on reserves potentially. So like you want to make sure that you're like putting it into the right places, basically. And that's where the planner comes in and all that kind of stuff. So it's important.
And what I'll add to that is enrolling in a graduate program is an investment in yourself professionally. And I think some of the reasons why students or people may not think about these things before, because you're not used to putting yourself first. So that's part of the growth process in the program too. Like some people say, your social life may have to take a back seat. You know, you'll have to have different boundaries with your family members, ask for more help. So it is really like, it will encourage you to like create different systems. And if identifying your behaviors, creating new systems, there's a lot of discomfort and change. So we see that manifest in many ways as administrators, myself personally, and I'm a social worker once again. So we deal with it, we manage it. And it's always great when students can be self-aware and kind of work from a place of strengths and really being very clear about their needs, about what their limits are and how they can show up as their best self, solution oriented. Even though we've been in a very challenging past few years, it's been a lot of challenges. So just being self-aware about these things.
I think one thing that's different about an MSW program is that it really is a transformational experience. You should come out of it as different people than when you entered it. It's not just about the theories that you're learning or what you're doing in your field. It's about what you learn about yourself, right? How do you learn to show up, right? Even when you don't feel like showing up, right? When you may be having a bad day, you're going to walk into work and your clients are still going to expect you to show up and be there and put your best self forward. And that's what we're, trying to make sure that our students learn to do and that we ourselves do as professionals. So I think that's one of the a very different thing about an MSW program is acknowledging that you are not only learning and practicing, but you're also changing. And it is uncomfortable. And to start being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And then also to use all of that as kind of grist for the mill, as they say, for when you're starting to practice, because guess what? Our clients are uncomfortable. That's why they're coming to see a social worker, right? And that can be used to inform your practice, regardless of what level you're working at. So yeah, any other comments? Let's see. Oh, very helpful perspectives. Thank you, Yema and Camila. I agree. All right, that's the end of the slide deck. I know we are over. Thank you so much to everyone who continued to stay on. I'm going to stop my share so I can see everybody. It's still.
And I want to share one question that was presented is about the populations that people can work with as students within the field office. There are various populations that you can work with, and Lisa, you can maybe speak to this. If there's a population that you're interested in working with that maybe we don't have a field placement in, I think it's happened before where there's a connection made and we're able to establish new field placements with populations that people want to work with.
Okay.
That's it.
You'll get to tell us a lot on your field application. Okay, like what you've done already, who you've worked with, who you would like to work with. That doesn't mean you will end up working with them, because we're still going to pick for you what we think will best round you out as a social worker, right? But we also develop new placements every single year. And we're open to kind of hearing about new agencies and programs because those are ever changing, right?
Yema?
I just want to add one final thought if you didn't get anything I said, please listen to me carefully. Trust the process. It's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, but at the end, it will all be worth it. Trust it. That's all.
Thank you, Yama.
We had one last administrative question, if we can answer that. Approximately how many students are accepted every year?
Oh, it's a good question. We accept, and like, who was it said, it's late in the day and it's the end of the semester. So this is fumes, people. So we accept about 100, I want to say like 150, 160 students every year, right? So the thing that's interesting is when you apply, you're typically applying either as an advanced standing, a part-time, or a full-time student. So we accept, you know, about 1/2 of our advanced standing pool, about 1/2 the part-time pool, about 1/2 of the full-time pool, some in there, okay? If you want to switch, 'cause that's another common question. Say if you are advanced standing, you want to switch to full-time, your application is automatically considered for full-time. There's nothing that you really need to do. Right? If you're part-time going to full-time, that can get a little bit trickier, all right, in the sense that, again, going to Lisa's area, we have these field placements, right, that we have to be really careful about. So if you were part-time, you want to switch to full-time, we kind of say, hang on, let's see what our field placements are looking like. And if we can manage it, then we will allow the switch to happen. Okay, enjoy your dinner, Camila. Thank you. Yes. Yema? Hands up still? Oh, no. Okay. All right. So that's a huge, huge round of applause to Camila and Yema. Thank you very, very much. All right. Any additional questions in the chat?
I had one quick question. It looked like somebody in the chat had asked about, they had a Master's of Education, which I also have a Master's of Education. And it was unclear if there's a possibility that any of those credits are transferable or not, that I couldn't quite follow the thread.
Sure. Yeah, it was. So if you want to transfer courses from any other discipline, right, any graduate level courses to the MSW program, okay? Now, I'm not talking about advanced standing. The exception is advanced standing. They need to be taken within 3 years of when you start the MSW.
Never mind.
Okay, that's
No, I graduated in 2001, so
yeah,
I guess that's off the table. All right, thanks.
Absolutely.
And the other piece, I apologize because I think I made it confusing in the thread. I was thinking field placements and what you had to do for your education degree, that placements don't substitute MSW placements. And I didn't explain myself well, so I apologize.
One other, sorry, real quick question. I'm obviously, I got my master's in 2001, and I've been working in the field of behavioral health for the past 21 years. So I'm coming in as an quite older student. What's your student population? I mean, age range? I'm assuming that there's people coming in to the program as second careers or later in life.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So you'll find that our average age is probably, I want to say maybe 29-ish. I'm thinking, Alice, you might know too, because we're working the exit survey. So we do have a number of people who are coming like right out of undergraduate but we have people coming into the program also like mid-career, right? Or even like later as well. I know, again, I've been working here 20 years and I've seen people in their 60s, right? In their 70s come back to get their MSW.
Yeah, also just in the classes that I teach, it's very rare. Almost all the time, there's at least several students who are in their 30s or older, I would say. So that's very common, and it's I find it very valuable for the class, for the experience of the classroom, to have a real range of people. Lots of people come in with very different professional experiences. And it's just a really rich flavor to the class to have different age diversity, experience diversity, background diversity.
Great question. Thank you, Holly.
Oh, and I have another question, because I have a master's in education and have been working in special education in inner city for, 2 decades, and before that, like museums with Native American programs for 2 decades. So I'm just wondering, does that experience help in internships or applying for things? I mean, I'm just wondering if that is going to help me in the program.
I mean, I think that's an amazing question. I think that the answer around does previous work or life experience, can it kind of count towards the internship or replace it? For other folks who might be thinking that way, the answer is no. However, your work experience, your life and learned experience, when you are able to take from that pot of knowledge that you have, still come into this program with a willingness and a vulnerability and an openness to put on a student learner hat and learn this new perspective and way of looking at it, and be able to talk, as Kate was mentioning, in class, and seeing those things come together and one kind of feed the other, but still feeling an openness to learning new skills. We've seen a lot of students go down a beautiful path in that way. So I think it's going
that's the
to
feeling
help.
I'm getting about this. I mean, I'm
Right?
pretty excited from this presentation about what this, work would be and how it could,
I'm so
round
glad.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'm a very transparent person. Someone will come in with many years of work experience and not that vulnerability or willingness to still think that there is more to learn or something different to learn. And they'll tell me, like, I just need the piece of paper, but I already know how to do this.
See, and I think as a teacher, since you're constantly having to learn, it might help you with that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it, the attitude that the person brings as a learner completely impacts what their experience is going to be like at the field placement and in the classroom, right? But it can be beautiful when those things meld together.
I also just want to share a quick little story about when I started my PhD program. So I went right from the MSW to PhD, right? So I was young-ish, and I'm in these classes, these doctoral classes with people who've been practicing for years, right? I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't practiced today. I don't know anything. These people have so much experience. And then I got to know my cohort, and they shared that when they started, they were terrified of me because I was fresh in school. I knew how to do research. I had all this recent experience writing papers and getting things done, right? And it was that sitting back and going, wow, okay, we each have, there's strengths that we are bringing to this program, regardless of where we are, and then finding ways to work with one another to really help empower one another, right? And to build upon our existing strengths as well. So I always like to share that with, students who might be returning students, again, my mother was a returning student. She went and got her master's degree when she was in her 60s. Right. And saying that you have so much strength and so much wisdom and experience, and that it's so wonderful for not just the classroom, the field experience, and your colleagues, your other students as well. They have a lot to learn from you. And we as faculty have a lot to learn from you as well. I have been talking a lot today.
I want to acknowledge we're coming up on time and people have to leave. But I did drop my email and the SSW help desk email in the chat for anyone who wants to follow up outside of this. Those are both available to you.
I had one question. Does your school offer career fairs for second year MSW students to help them find employment that they can pursue after graduation that's related to clinical and macro social work?
Lisa?
Yes, hi Kenneth. So the field education office takes on our career services piece, and we host career workshops throughout the academic year. We even start off with a panel. We bring in micro and macro social workers from around the region to talk to folks who are trying to decide if they want to go clinical or macro, right? And then a series of workshops around resume development, interviewing, salaries and negotiation, networking, accepting the job. And this sort of culminates in our annual field and career fair, which takes place in February of every year. And that fair is an opportunity for students who are looking for their second year placement, because remember I told you, you get to pick your own. Students will go to the fair with their beautiful new shiny resume from the workshop, right? And sometimes interview right on the spot and obtain their second year field placement. It's also an employment fair for any BSW or MSW students who are graduating that May. And we bring in anywhere from 60 to 85 agencies typically in a year from around the state, and tons more information will go out about that.
I will say to have it, it's not uncommon for students to be hired by their field agency.
Yeah.
For second year students who are in their field agency, the agency have spent a year training, right? You. And so that when you graduate, they're like, here's someone who knows the ropes, they understand. And so it's very common for students to get employed by their field agency at the end of their program.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have one other question. In regard to the students that come in for the first year, what does how do you help them adjust to being an MSW student, coming into the profession? So, helping them balance out, doing their field work and their coursework so that they're successful to get to their second year.
Yeah, I think, and I'll just start now, others have anything to chime, like there's so many things that we have about student support in place, right? So one, we have staff on hand to really assist you with that. Like you can go in, make an appointment with Geraldine, talk to Geraldine about some of the issues you might be having or some of the challenges you might be having. Or, we have these seminars throughout the semester about, okay, now like getting started as an MSW student, like, what are some of the things you need to learn. Last year at orientation, we had a meet your support team, right, at orientation, and we all introduced ourselves and like, here's what we do and here's how we can help you. We try to link you to a faculty advisor who's there not only just to give you your AVN, but to provide you with support along the way. We have tons of support services at the university as well, right? Again, just specifically for graduate students, specifically for new graduate students. The one thing I would say that's the most helpful in this, Kenneth, is for you to let us know what you need, right? What you're interested in, okay? To not sit in silence, okay? To come in and say, hey, I'm Kenneth, I'm a new MSW student, and this is different for me. How can you help me get settled here? And people will probably fall over themselves trying to assist you.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Right. So basically, when we hear, when we really connect with our students, when we hear what they need, we really do try to assist in any way that we possibly can.
Yeah, and I would say the foundation of that, it really reflects our professional practice, which is that support and success is really built on relationships. So where are you making connections? Is it with a peer? Is it with a faculty advisor, a professor? You know, where you feel most connected already, and building on those connections for support.
And we try to create a lot of different access points for you to find those touch points, those people, those folks who are going to connect with you. So even in field education, we have a mandatory field orientation where we spend a day together talking all things field, including some of the obstacles that people typically experience in field. And every student is assigned a field liaison, which is a social worker who is your immediate contact outside of the agency if you need to talk about something that's going on in field. So there really are kind of like support, mentorship type opportunities. And you don't have to connect with every single person, but you'll find who vibes with you and who you work with. And we also have a student lounge, literally. So sometimes peers just end up in the student lounge and shared spaces between classes and make connections, friendships, you know, supporting roles, and learn from each other how do we deal with being an MSW student all these years later, for example.
Thank you. I know iPhone just dropped something in the chat.
Yeah.
And Alice, I know I'm asking you to really take charge of following up with folks on some of these questions, and just want to make sure that you have iPhone's contact information and how to follow up.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Is that a wave goodbye, Kenneth, or another question?
Good
That's a
night,
wave
Kenneth.
goodbye.
I think it's a good night.
And so I just want to,
we're on the same wavelength already, Kenneth.
yeah, so before you end the, before we close the Zoom, I just want to make sure that iPhone has a chance to, I've had a couple international students contacting me, and I, you know, made sure that they had this information. But there are some of these detailed questions that I don't know the answer to.
I would also, since we're recording this, there's not many students on, but for future information, to highlight some of those university resources that are really the advantage of being part of a larger university. We have the Purple Pantry, which is a food pantry for our students, both undergraduate and graduate. I will freely admit that first year was really hard for me, and I was using that to get through until I got stabilized, because there's a difference between going from a full-time working individual to a student, and some of that adaptation was helpful. We have Purple Threads, which provides clothing for students. We have a counseling center, we have a writing center, and we have tutoring programs that are available both in person and online. And these are all available and wonderful resources for the university.
Beautiful, Alice. Thank you. Yeah. All right. I think we are.
iPhone user, I do need your email to follow up with you one way or the other. I just want to clarify that before we.
Okay. So iPhone, if you could drop your email either in the chat or directly to Alice, that would be great. All right. And I think I will end, and this is kind of informal and something that just has kind of come to me. And, you know, Kate, this is actually something that you've helped me kind of understand, in that taking a moment to really just being aware and thanking the ancestors, right? And the Native American and the Black and Brown bodies that have been so important in building the foundation of this country, right? And the state where we're in, and just all the plentiful things that we have right now. And so I know I'm doing this very awkwardly, but I just wanted to take a moment and really just share that I'm really grateful for the ancestors that have come before me and made this possible. So thank you. All right, and iPhone has dropped their email in a chat. And with that, I bid you all adieu.
Lovely to spend the evening with you all in this way.
I hope this has been helpful. It's been a pleasure. chatting with you, and I hope that we see all of you in the application pool and in the halls of the School of Social Welfare next year. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Night.